there, everyone. Welcome to the Bird's Nest podcast. I'm Joe Donahue. Thank you so much for joining us. With Eagles training camp starting up and the quest to defend Super Bowl 59 starting in earnest, we are joined today by a special guest, someone who has been a die-hard Eagles fan for probably as long as he can remember. Some people may know him as the creator of Vacant Lot for the South Street Star, but you probably know him as CNN's chief Washington correspondent, along with the host of State of the Union and The Lead with Jake Tapper. It's Jake Tapper. Jake, thanks so much for stopping by.
Great to be here. Go Birds.
Absolutely. Now, Jake, I'm gonna start off with this because I'm just curious because sports is very often a family affair. And though you grew up in Queen Village in Philly, your parents aren't actually originally from the Philly area.
No.
What was it that sparked your fandom of the Eagles? Was it like simply a product of the environment? Were there people in your life? What was it that sparked that fandom?
Well, my dad's from Chicago. My mom's from Canada, then North Carolina. So it wasn't as though they were automatically Eagles, Phillies, Sixers fans. But my dad ultimately did take to fandom and identifying with Philadelphia. But I have to say, it was definitely a product. I was definitely a product of my peers, of all the boys I was friends with when I was a little boy. And you also have to remember, I'm 56. So that means that the Eagles were in the Super Bowl in 1981, I think, January 81, February 81, somewhere in there, or 80 maybe it was. But like that era, Phillies win the World Series in 1980. I was 11. Eagles were in the Super Bowl. I think that was 1980 as well, or 1981. Sixers won the championship in 82, 83. That's the last time they won the championship. Phillies were in the World Series again in 82 when I was 13. So this era of being 11, 12, 13, when you are really so into sports, there really isn't, at least for me, it was comic books and sports. That was it. Um, I mean, that was just such an amazing, lucky time to be a Philadelphia sports fan. So that era was incredibly significant to me and all of the friends I had. Like this was also an era, like, I mean, baseball cards were huge, huge in the 70s and 80s, not for collecting the way that I have baseball cards now, but as toys. We would flip them, we would play games with them. Remember, this is before computers, this is before video games, so just growing up in that era was a magical time to become a Philly sports fan. And then ultimately, I wasn't truly rewarded as an Eagle fan until 2018. But you all know that story.
Absolutely, yeah. The patience, especially for people who've been sports fans for a long time, really does wind up paying off in 2018. I know for me personally, I can say like I mean it is a family affair for me in my situation. My family has had my family's had season tickets since my mom's father got them from Franklin Field. So like it's interesting always hearing the various connections, but certainly growing up in that time when all of Philly sports was in kind of like that golden era, especially in 1980 when everybody, all of the major sports teams had at
Yeah.
least made an appearance in the championship. It really, I'm sure that fueled a lot of the passion there.
And I've tried to pay it forward. I took my dad to the NFC Championship game in 2018, which was in Philly. As you know, we beat the Vikings. And then he's in his 80s, so he didn't want to go to the Super Bowl, but I went. I brought a friend of mine. But this time around, I brought my kids to the next NFC Championship, which unfortunately we won, but we didn't win the Super Bowl. I guess that was what, 2022. And
Mhm.
then this time I took my son is now super into football. So now my son is now 15 years old. He's actually he plays football in high school, etc. So I took him to the Super Bowl this year, 2026, 2025 rather. I'm getting ahead of myself. And that was just magical. That was just an unbelievable, wholesome affair of just rooting for. And he now knows more about the Eagles than I do. Like, I mean, he's just like way because he's just smarter than me, but also just like he's a kid, and so he knows much more about football than his dad, who is busy with other stuff.
Sure, for sure. Obviously, this last season, as you alluded to, was a huge season for the team, but definitely it was rocky towards the beginning.
Yeah,
Take
two
me
and
through your
two.
emotions last season because it was a roller coaster. I remember seeing you on Politics with Jamel Hill, and you were understandably at that point in time not so optimistic about the team's prospect for the rest of the season, and lo and
Well,
behold, they turned it around. Tell me a little bit about your
I will
emotions.
say that it is in it is a responsibility as a Philadelphian to be worried up until the very last moment of the very last down. I mean, like I in the 2018 Super Bowl, I mean, I was watching Brady on that last run, and I was just like, oh no, we're going to lose it in the final 10 seconds of the game, and obviously that did not happen, thankfully. But we've come close before. With Super Bowl, what was the one in 2005? I mean, we should have won. It was 2004, 2005. I forget the
Yep.
year exactly,
hmm
but we should have won
All
that one.
39. Yep.
Yeah, we should have won that Super Bowl. We did not. And yeah, I mean, it's not that I was down on the team. I was just worried about the team. And look, right now I'm focused more on the Phillies, and I have the angst of a Phillies fan, which is now different than the angst of an Eagles fan because the Eagles have delivered, have gone to three Super Bowls and won two of them since 2018. That's unbelievable. And thank you to Jeff Lurie and thank you to Howie Roseman, not to mention obviously the players. But now it's a little bit more angst-ridden for Philadelphia fans, for Phillies fans, and yeah, I mean, I'm not overconfident. Let's put it that way when it comes to the Phillies, and I'm not going to enter the season for the Eagles overconfident. I think Howie Roseman has earned the benefit of the doubt and trust, but there are a lot of players I really like who aren't returning to who aren't returning to the team this year. And again, Howie Roseman has he's proven himself worthy of our trust, but that doesn't mean like I'm not nervous about it.
For sure. Yeah. No, definitely. We have that, and especially people who've grown up through those early years. I think maybe there are fans of a special, especially fans who are a little bit younger, who maybe don't know the time, even like in that early 2000s, late 2000s period where like the team had promise year after year after year, and then just year after year after year let us down. That forms fans in a very different way, I think, than fans who are growing up now, who they might
Yeah.
not have known those those eras of
No,
pain,
it's you're
as you
telling me
describe it.
yeah, no, I mean I've remarked on this to friends and I've remarked on this in like to other fans when watching a game with Jack, my son. Jack's 15, right? So 2018 was what? That was 7 years ago. So since Jack was 8 years old, the Eagles have been really good. They've been in three Super Bowls and they've won two of them. So Jack thinks this is normal for the Eagles. He's like, they make the Super Bowl like every other year, and they win it maybe like two out of three times. I mean, like that is his mindset of the Eagles. And I have said to him, please, like, no, this is not what it's like to be an Eagles fan. I mean, like what he's going through is like what my friends who were Steelers or Cowboys fans in the 70s went through, or my friends who were Dodgers or Yankees fan in the 70s. Like, it's just like, this is not normal. This is not normal. But, I'll take it.
Absolutely, yeah, it definitely it. You get more appreciation when you haven't had it, right? And I think that's the danger when you like look at the fans of the Patriots for like the last 20 years
Right.
in the Belichick Brady era, right? Like I mean, their parades were not an event. I mean, they were, but they were not really.
No, and look, when I was in New Orleans, that arena is much closer to Kansas City than it is to Philadelphia. And that city is not like a great commuter city. Like it's not commuter's not the right word, but it's not the airport's not that big. It's not that easy to get in and out of New Orleans compared to other cities of its size. But that arena was at least two-thirds Eagles fans. At least. I mean, the and because they were used because the Chiefs fans were spoiled. They were like, "Oh, we're going to win it a third time in a row." So it was, it's different. You get lazy, and but I don't sense that with Eagles fans. I don't sense that because we're hungry and worried. I think just as a state.
Yeah. And certainly we're used to being the underdogs. We're used to
Yeah.
being counted out. It almost makes it a little weird, and I'm curious your thoughts about this too. The Eagles entering this season almost as like the heavy favorites.
Well, yes
Um,
and no. I mean, but you read the rankings, right? And like
yeah.
Jalen Hurts is like the number 7 ranked quarterback, and it's like, what the hell are you talking about? Like he's like, what does he need to do? How
Yeah.
many touchdowns does he need to score during a Super Bowl to be ranked 1 or 2? Like, give me a break. And this
Yeah.
is this is one of the things that I think it makes it delicious to be an Eagles fan, especially this season. But also it makes it rough when we're not winning Super Bowls, which is they as Mr. Kelsey once said, they don't like us. The sports media world um, is they are doubters. They are doubters, and in a way that sometimes feels gratuitous. Like when Bill Simmons last fall was
Mhm.
talking about Sirianni would be fired, and there'd be a podcast welcome for him when he was ready, and then Sirianni turns around and delivers another Super Bowl championship, or delivers a Super Bowl championship, and I mean that their hatred I think makes us stronger.
Mhm.
But yeah, the ESPNs of the world are never on our side. They're never on our side. I mean, we saw that. I mean, I did a whole talk about gratuitous by me. I mean, I did a whole commentary on my show after we won the Super Bowl about how we had been written off, about how just the stories better than I do, but Jalen Hurts transferring to Oklahoma so he could play football because Alabama wasn't going to let him, or Saquon Barkley being let go by New York, and just like all of the nonsense that these guys have had to deal with. And look, nobody feels sorry for them, in the world, in the scheme of things. These are incredibly blessed multimillionaires. But that said, like the team has been counted out. I mean, just like one player after another, you can just go down the line of like some other team saying, you can go play for somebody else. We don't care. But Saquon is the best example of it. And I don't know. It's let them rank us low. Let them rank us low. I remember the New York Times could put out their rankings every week during the season, and the Eagles were never like considered a serious contender up until like the very end. And it's just like, okay, that's fine. I'm not paying attention to you people. We're just going to focus on our team.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean that clip of you going off on the national sports media definitely was a good watch. If you have not checked it out, we will put that link in the description. That was a full 7 minutes, which is a lot, or pretty close to 7 minutes, which is a lot of time for
It was
TV
crazy.
to
It was
dedicate
crazy.
to.
Like I said, it was completely gratuitous. It was entirely it was entirely unnecessary. It was not particularly news related. I mean, ish, sports. But I just, I had to get it off my chest. And there's something about, look, I just did an interview with Selena Zito, who wrote a book about Butler, Pennsylvania, where President Trump was almost assassinated, and a lot of her book is about a sense of place. It's a pretty political book, but like one of the things that she gets at in her political theories is Butler, Pennsylvania as a place, and like one of the things that not enough Republicans, Democrats, or people in the media understand is this idea of place, and that really rang true for me because I have now lived in Washington D.C. longer than I've lived in Philadelphia, but if you walked into this house not knowing what city you were in, you would think that you were in Philadelphia, just because of all this stuff behind me, and this is just some of it, or just like the shirts we wear in terms of Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, and so I think the sense of place is an important thing for me, and it was pretty crazy that I did that, and I didn't need to be as angry as I seemed. I don't know what. I had a lot of excitement after the Super Bowl. It was one of the best days of my life. I mean, it was just like it's hard to. I think the 11-year-old me would be proud that at 56, I'm still a Philadelphia fan, but it is a little crazy. Like I didn't need to do that for 7 minutes.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, it played well for the Philly fans, and
I know that people liked it in Philly. Yes,
absolutely, and it spoke to your fandom. It spoke to the passion, and that was I think a real summary of like maybe in an unspoken way of the fact that like that how does Eagles green continue? What does it mean to bleed green as an Eagles fan? Like that was a way for you to bleed green. So I mean, it really that was
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I played ball among the fans was because of the fact that it showcased the passion for the team in a way that maybe isn't always present among the national sports media.
Well, I mean, I'll just say that like I think a lot of people root for their hometown teams, and Washington D.C. is such a transient city that a lot of people are still rooting for the team of the place they grew up in, and not the Nationals and not the Commanders. It was never even a consideration for me. Like I never even thought about becoming a it was the Redskins at the time, but like I mean I hate the Redskins. I hate the Commanders. I mean I don't hate the Commanders as much as I used to hate the Redskins, but like oh, and they're actually pretty good and and they have Zach Ertz who I love and I wish Eagles would bring him back. But um yeah, I was never going to become a Washington fan. That's just nuts. But that's also I think because of my youth and how big sports were during that time. I mean, I remember watching Tug McGraw throw that last pitch. I mean, in 1980, I was watching in my room on this little black and white TV. That's what they had them back then. These little black and white TVs. Some of your listeners might not know this, but the teeny little black and white TVs only connected to whatever air was
The
coming
rabbit
through the
ears.
yeah, was coming through the airwaves and not,
Yeah.
there was no cable box. It was just like the reception you could get by aiming your rabbit ear, towards the tower or whatever. This is in South Philly or Queen Village rather. Yeah.
And hopefully it wasn't a situation where you had to reposition the rabbit ear so that way like it was off the TV. Otherwise, you're stuck holding it there for the rest of the game.
Not for a World Series, which was on one of the networks, but
Mhm.
like growing up, like regular games would be. I mean, I'd have to go back, and this is just by memory, and like more than 40 years ago. But as I recall, a lot of the games would be on like channel 29 or 17 or 57. Like they'd be on the UHF channels.
Mhm.
If this is like before everybody had ESPN or whatever, and so yeah, that was a lot of rabbit ear stuff that you had to do in order to watch those games.
Yeah. Um, as I mentioned, training camp is upon us. There's life back in the NovaCare Complex. I'm sure the hope on every Eagles fan's mind is that the team will bring home the third Lombardi for the city. Certainly a hope, I'm sure,
I
even
see you
though
have a
some
fake.
people may have different degrees of optimism.
I
I'm
see
sorry?
you have a fake Lombardi there. I
Yep.
have Yeah, I have one too up in my room it's and I took a picture and I held it up and people were like saying to me like where did that? I'm just like it's fake. It was like $100 on Etsy. What are you talking about? It's like a laser printer.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyhow, yeah. So, with that journey to defend Super Bowl 59 upon us in earnest, do you have any hopes for the team as they gear up for the new season?
Well, I mean, I hope that you know I hope that the hunger is still there because once you have achieved something as remarkable as what they achieved, it's always there's always a fear that the hunger will go out, the hunger will die down because they've proven how good they are. So maybe we need to keep making sure that Jalen and Saquon and everybody else read all that nasty stuff that the sports media keeps saying about them, just to get their hunger back up. I hope that the holes that are left in the wake of some of the players that were integral to the victory last year or earlier this year are filled by great players. I have no reason to think that they won't be. But that's just my concern is that it's not the same team. And again, I get that Howie Roseman knows more about this than I do, and like in Howie we trust. But still, aren't you worried about some of the guys that aren't returning?
Yeah, I mean there's always concerns in that regard. I think that I do think that CJ Gardner Johnson leaving
Yeah,
definitely raised some alarm bells.
or Slay. I love Slay.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know,
I think as I look at this team though, I think the Eagles were kind of in more of a maintenance mode, right? Like they were looking for to try to because they already had that and they a lot of the core pieces, especially on offense, were sticking around. So I think that they were trying to continue the work that they had begun last season. As I look at the roster, they were getting a little bit younger. They're continuing to get some of those guys who they've gotten in recent years, getting them active. I mean,
Right.
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing like the next step for guys like Cooper DeJean. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. got a little bit of action last season. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing a lot of those guys.
The Gene was incredible. Watching him at that Super Bowl and that pick six was unbelievable. And it's so funny because he kind of there is a look that he has that is the same look my son has. It's kind of just like what a lot of 15 to 20-year-old boys to men look like, which is just kind of like shaggy brown hair and like shorter on the sides and like kind of thick and like so I always whenever I see Cooper DeJean, I see my son in him, even though my son's a little smaller. I worry about Slay leaving. I really liked him, and yeah, I mean the thing about rebuilding the defense is that the defense was so damn good during the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Like that's what just makes me a little nervous about it because I mean they just you know I mean Kansas City couldn't do anything.
yeah,
They couldn't do any. It was like embarrassing.
yeah. They didn't cross the
Um,
50-yard line until the third quarter.
Right. And so, I mean, and the final score does not is not actually reflective of the true score. You know, they let the second stringers and the third stringers in, and and it was actually more enjoyable than the 2018 Super Bowl for me because I was nervous about the 2018 Super Bowl up until the final whistle. But this one at the half, you could kind of like exhale. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and I worried, okay, maybe Kansas City's going to come back after the half, and then they didn't. And I was like, okay, we can just enjoy this. It's like almost mathematically impossible to lose at this point.
Hmm. For sure. Um, you spoke to this idea of being laser of making sure that that hunger's still there, and certainly there's that the underdog mentality wasn't present. Or, I mean, it was present, like the being counted out, especially at the beginning of the season. Definitely, I think helped them
Up
through.
until the end, up
Yeah,
until the
up
end,
until
they
the
were
end.
counting him out. Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah, and especially as they got towards like the Kansas City Chiefs and what have you. I think that there's definitely that underdog mentality. But there's still that sense of confidence among the fans as well too that like this team is seems to be just as laser focused now,
yeah.
having been on the other side of the Super Bowl, compared to
I don't know that I feel confident. I
yeah,
feel I love them.
yeah,
They're important to me, and I'm rooting for them, and I'll be watching
yeah,
every game and going up if I can to see them play in person. But I'm not confident
yeah.
by any stretch of the
There's
imagination. I never enter a season confident.
yeah, I hopeful, maybe confident and hopeful. I
Okay.
jumbled the words there. Okay, so definitely there's a lot of hope and there's a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of that fan belief, fan
Yeah.
confidence, and actual confidence. I'm gonna differentiate too as well. So
Okay. Okay.
so I think that there's definitely a lot of that. But I noticed also too, like this team seems to be laser focused on being on the other side of the Super Bowl and like getting back to the top of the mountain, which is a very difficult task given the ignominious history we have of teams that have gotten to championships and have fallen off the cliff.
Yeah,
I'm
like the felt
curious.
like the well, also the Phillies after winning the World Series in '80, then just completely fell up. I mean, they made it back to the World Series in '82, but Baltimore destroyed them. And so, yeah, I mean,
And then the Phillies in '08, and then the Phillies in 22,
oh
same
God,
same thing, right?
so
Like
painful. Yeah, so awful. I
sure.
think I was in. No, I was just trying to think like where I watched the Phillies fall apart to the Diamondbacks, but must have been 2023, I think.
Hmm.
I think I was in Israel covering the war in October, November of 2023. And is that when we got eliminated by the Diamondbacks? I think it was.
23 was the Diamondbacks year, yeah.
Yeah. And I was watching it. You couldn't watch it on TV in Israel. So I was just watching it on my phone through social media. I don't think I could, yeah, and I couldn't get the game either. So I was just like watching like the updates with
Hmm.
people like tweeting or whatever on the MLB app, like whatever. And it was just like so painful to watch.
Hmm.
But anyway, sorry, that's
Yeah,
baseball.
and that actually does bring me to a good point here, and or to a good topic to discuss here, because I mean You've alluded to this. You've lived in Washington, D.C. now for longer than you've lived in Philly.
Yeah.
You're constantly out about. You have to stay abreast of everything. Do you find it easier or harder to follow the team in your role at CNN now that you've gotten there? Do you find it easier or harder to follow the team when you're away from the city of Philadelphia?
Oh, I don't think it really matters. I will say that the revolution in technology, in apps, has really made a huge difference to my ability to follow the Phillies and the Eagles, and to a lesser extent the Sixers, and that really helped goose my ability to be a fan. I regret, so in 2008, I was a campaign reporter. I guess I was 39, and I was covering Obama running for president in 2008, and like I was entirely focused on that. And this is smartphones were out there, but it was before the app revolution. It was before you could really, at least as far as I knew, I wasn't really able to follow the Phillies the way that I should have followed the Phillies. And I completely missed out on that season just because I was just so focused on covering the election of Obama. So I'll say that the what the apps allow now, in terms of MLB, in terms of NFL, in terms of being able to watch a game on my computer, on my phone, wherever I am, on streaming, on my TV, that has made it irrelevant what city I'm in. And in fact, sometimes it's easier to watch Phillies games because I don't have to worry about the blackout if I were in Philly, in terms of like what is readily available on MLB, or what's readily available on, I guess it's on YouTube now for the NFL.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter, but it is such an important, being from Philadelphia is such an important part of my identity, not just Phillies and Eagles, but just who I am and how I was raised, and growing up in Center City and all that. So. Um, I would say it doesn't really matter, but I'm really, really glad that this is one really positive part of the internet, is how much it lets people stay focused on what's going on and who the teams are playing, especially with an incredible, like, it's a lot easier to be a football fan than a baseball fan just because it's one game a week for whatever. But like baseball, it's just so many games, you know, and anyway.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Last question for you, Jake. Again, just because Eagles training camp is starting up, we talked a lot about, and you alluded to some of the concerns. What do you see as some of the strengths of this team going into this season?
Well, I think just Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley are two of the best players that we've ever had, and that connection is amazing. Devontae's amazing. I can't really speak to any particular strength other than the fact that we have these great players that have delivered, and it's just a joy to watch them and to root for them. And they, by all accounts, seem to be great people off the field as well. Jeff Lurie, we had him on my show the other day to talk about the Autism Center. He's creating, he's building, he's donating millions to constructing in West Philly, and it's just a joy. One other thing I want to show you. So these are my autographed footballs
Yeah,
and helmets from 2018 and from 2000. People will recognize that I believe this is Saquon's. Is this Saquon or Jalen's? Uh,
I'm not as familiar with the autographs. I'm sorry, but
I think it's Jalen. It's Jalen
it
Hurts.
definitely looks like it. There definitely appears to be a clear
That's
H
yeah.
there.
That's a Jalen Hurts. But I also have. Hold on one second. I got this at the last Phillies game that it was a joy to attend, which was when they beat the Mets during the playoffs last year. The Mets ultimately won the series.
Hmm.
But this is a Mike Schmidt autographed.
Wow,
It says Jake, wear it proud, Michael Schmidt. So
nice,
that's a real treat.
great,
But
great.
the thing that I can't really wear it though because it's got this awesome autograph. I don't want to sweat
Yeah.
all over, but it's
Yeah.
such a good hat. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I appreciate you sharing that, and yeah, again, that speaks to the fandom, that speaks to the passion that Philly sports fans have. So Jake, I appreciate you taking the time to share all of that. You can catch Jake Tapper on CNN weeknights from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on The Lead with Jake Tapper, as well as on Sundays at 9 a.m. and noon Eastern on State of the Union with Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Jake, thank you once again so much for stopping by.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Go Birds.
Go Birds. And thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to the Bird's Nest podcast. You can support the Bird's Nest podcast by liking and subscribing to Bird's Nest Media right here on YouTube, as well as by sharing to your social media pages. You can also find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, the Odyssey app, and iHeartRadio, as well as birdsnestmedia.com for additional Eagles and NFL coverage. If you'd like to support us in a different way, you can find the link to our Patreon in the description below or at birdsnestmedia.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and let's go Eagles.